Добрый день. В эфире курс «Эпоха посткоронавируса». Со мной в студии.
Hello, and thanks for joining us. With us, Dr. Michael Laitman. Hello. Hello, everyone.
Жизнь и смерть.
Today we'd like to talk about life and death. And the first question is, biology is the study of life. And this science has no idea where did life come from, life on Earth. Do you know where did life come from? Yeah. What is life? Life, if it is not the form of what we call the biological kind of life that we're familiar with, then it's a form of a special form of conscious existence. Where did it come from? It appeared from the desire that was created first, the power of desire, and then this power of desire developed to such an extent that it started feeling itself as existing, as developing, some dying in its different metamorphoses. So life appeared out of the desire. In nature, there's some kind of desire. Yeah, the desire is first here. Meaning there is some kind of a force that created this desire for... Okay. Then where did the death come from? Because this is how a desire that can't realize itself feel. This is how it feels itself, that the desire itself disappears. Is it possible to say that a desire that feels itself fulfilled feels life, and an unfulfilled desire can't fulfill itself, can't realize itself, feels itself as dying, as fading away? And how is all of this related to our biological life? This is how it relates. And in the science of Kabbalah, it's explained as a desire and the force that fulfills this desire. The force is called the light that created the desire and fulfills it, and the desire changes constantly under the influence of the light. But the light comes first, and the desire is secondary. But there are no secrets. We can learn all these things. Absolutely. Death exists in order for a person to think about the meaning of life. Well, in our world, actually, yes. Were there no death, then there would have been some other kinds of forms to continue our life, and a person would have felt completely differently. Death defines our entire existence, our worldview. What can you say about clinical death? Those processes that a person experiences, are they an illusion or not? And why do many people see the same picture, like the tunnel? And it's because we exist in the same biological body, animate body. We have similar animate bodies. And therefore, the same processes that occur in us when are different in a certain way that our biological systems work, give these kinds of appearances. Is it an illusion? Of course, partially it's an illusion, because the desire itself, it can't die. What dies off, dies out, is only its appearance, its external form called the body. Is it like water that changes form? It could be gas, it could be ice. The same way with man, he changes his state of existence. The thing is that it is all expressed in relation to man. Actually, nothing happens here. It's just that in relation to people, this desire goes through such forms of its existence that it seems to us that here he's alive, here he dies, here he's born, here's something else. So it's only our perception. Yeah. Okay, this separate subject. Why do we all relate to death so painfully? Because it's a final state after which we can't. There's nothing. What exists after this state? Nothing. Something goes somewhere, disappears. There was a person, moved around, talked, responded. I talked to him. We had a relationship. Suddenly, instead of him, there is some kind of dead biological body left. And that's it? No man? So here there's the disappearance of two parameters. The spirit of man, with which I had some kind of interaction and some kind of enlivening, a force that enlivened this piece of flesh. Do you agree that death is not the complete end of man's existence, but only of a certain form, or a certain form of consciousness continues after death? Undoubtedly. Is there a difference? The way a person dies. Yes. Who determines the way a person dies? Man himself, nature, there's some kind of mechanism. It's determined by the system that a person exists in, not society or some kind of regime or whatever, but it's the general system. Is it possible to change it? Yes. If a person will be connected in a good and nice way with the environment, he can change his entire attitude toward death. What's the best way to die? Hard to say, depends for whom. So for every person, depending on his qualities, there is a certain form of death that suits him. Yeah, there are even people that for them, before death, it would be good to suffer a lot. But this I'm saying kind of off the record. Think about it. Well, all of these shows are in order for us to later sit, talk about this, discuss it, think about it. Because the idea is to give basic principles, and the process after that should take place, should happen in groups, and they should discuss these things, realize them. Were a person to know the precise date of his death, would he live his life in a better way? Depends who. They say that Wolf Messing, he knew when is he going to die, at what time exactly. And he related to this very peacefully. Other people are afraid of this. And there are people that believe so much that there is something after it that they're not afraid of death. It's even a preferable thing. Should a person prepare himself every day for death? And if so, what should he do? No, a person should prepare himself for life after death, to continue his existence in the right way and in the right direction. What should a person be put to death for in our world? In order to put a person, to give him, suppose, the death penalty. I don't know, murder. Murder of first degree of someone who is completely innocent. It's a problem, of course, but says so in the Torah, and I agree with it. So these are the laws of nature. If a person killed someone intentionally, then you have to take his life. If he killed someone innocent, yes, but intentionally. Yeah, innocent and intentionally. And if suppose, I don't know, there was, I don't know about other cases. There are different, there are different considerations here, but it has to do with the connection between souls, and so I can't exactly talk about this now. So in the future there could be such people, depending on a person's qualities, that could say what kind of punishment to give him. In nature there's no such thing as punishment at all, there's only correction. And even the correcting system, all the labor camps and prisons, it's called a correcting system. It's not punishment. This is how we should, as if, relate to it, to reform it, so it will truly be a correction facility. I understand that a person grows old and then he dies, but sudden death, what's the point? Well, altogether we don't know what is the reason for a person's death. One person or another. We don't know all of these things, and therefore it's very hard to scrutinize. Death isn't a result of life. It's a transition into a different state. A life could last a few days, a few months, years. Why? Why should nature give birth to an organism that will live such a short period of time? And a long period of life, 50, 70, 100 years, what's the difference? Nature doesn't judge things this way. In nature, everything exists in the way of being integrated into one general integral system, and according to how we interact in this integral system, in us appears a greater or lesser need. And depending on this, we flow through life. Is it possible to teach a person not to be afraid of death? Of course. First of all, this is what religions do, all of them. Talk to those that are going to commit suicide, killing themselves, different suicide killers. If you stop him halfway through, he'll get angry at you. He's mad at you that you didn't allow him to enter heaven, where great things expect him. But still, even religious people are afraid. The question is to teach a person not to be afraid. A person needn't be afraid of death, but he should fear that he lives his life correctly. What's the right attitude toward death? Biologically, we finish a natural cycle and a person shifts into a new state. He continues his ideological mental work, spiritual work that he started in his lifetime. There are people that died that no one remembers about, and there are people that are, their day of death, their birthday is celebrated. Is there something about this? No. I'm not saying who remembers them, small egoists. Suppose some famous writer, scientist, people think about him, talk about him. No, maybe that's something for humanity, but actually, he didn't do anything for the correction of souls. People that lived a few thousand years ago, and we study about them. Is our life today becoming better by studying them? Do we correct nature and ourselves as a result? This is what it's about. Everything else is just fairy tales. The death of strangers attracts people. If there's an accident, people stop, they look at it. Why is it so sensational? The death of strangers. Again, it's a psychological matter, purely psychological. It's all the unknown, it's all very confused. It has to do with people and no one knows exactly what and how, and therefore it retracts. You said that life is shifting into a new degree of existence. And nature does it for us. Yeah. Can a person do it himself consciously? As it says, you can see your world in your lifetime. Meaning you can change your nature in such a way that you'll rise above your ego and will become so much so integrated in the force of nature that for you this life will practically cease to be important, defining. Meaning before the physical body dies, of course, a person's already in the next state of consciousness. Yeah? So it's possible. Yeah? What should we tell kids about death? How old should they be in order to talk to them about this, take them to a funeral? Until the age of 15, I wouldn't talk to children about death or take them to cemetery or anything. But they ask about it the ages of 10, 11, obviously, but I wouldn't recommend doing it. Why? You have to deflect them from that. Don't burden a child with psychology, with these kinds of things. He should learn. People believe in death because this is what they're taught, or because human consciousness associates life with our biological life. Nothing can exist without our consciousness. Death, as we understand it, is an illusion created by our consciousness. Do you agree? I disagree altogether with this theory. Therefore, I don't even have something to say. There's death, and that's that. Show me whoever says this, and let's do an experiment with them. Biocentrists. Okay. Meaning you disagree that death is an illusion created by our consciousness. It happens in our consciousness, of course, and to some extent it's an illusion, but the fact, but what this theory says about this later is complete nonsense. Would you invest in a vaccine against death? No. I don't think that it's necessary. I think that, to the contrary, death is something good. What's good about this life? A person, he goes through a certain stage in his development. He can correct it. He can correct his soul under certain conditions, and that's it. I think that what nature or the Creator are doing with us, which is one and the same, by the way, it's complete good and truth, and there's no need to change anything. Blitz questions, 10 short questions. Is it possible to consider a human weakness if a person is afraid of death and thinks about it? No, it's natural. What do you think about suicide? Negative. I think about it negatively, but I understand people that sometimes do it. Do you think that medicine in the future will be able to prevent death? No, never. The ideal death, the way you see it, what is it? I don't know how to answer this, but when a person corrects himself even until the last moment, not following the laws of nature, is it a tragic death? That's too simple, too simplistic. Is there life after the death of the physical body? Of course. I don't know if to call it life, but suppose, a kind of existence in a new form. Do you think that life came from outer space? No? I don't think that there is life in outer space. Can a person live for a few hundreds of years in his biological body? Yeah, that's possible. But what for? From your point of view, is incarnation possible? From the spiritual point of view of a person's development, it doesn't to burn a person's body after death. What do you think about it? Doesn't matter. A person needs to correct himself. That's it. In conclusion, what would you like to wish? We're talking about death. Can you say something interesting about life? What can we wish a person? To think about how happy he is for now getting the opportunity to find out that there is such a wisdom that talks about his meaning, purpose in life, that talks about life and death in such a way where he can rise above all of this, attain everything, and draw the most correct conclusions out of it and to come to a complete result. Is it correct to sit and talk about these kinds of topics? Undoubtedly, and with younger people too. Thank you very much. Until next time.